It's time for another edition of Fake Questions, Real Answers. There's stuff I want to talk about but don't want to wait for you to ask me. Dear Colin, ESPN has metrics that say the Celtics have an 86% chance of beating the Warriors in the finals. What say you? Well, I said before the playoffs there are no great teams and that health could be the deciding factor. If Robert Williams, the center for the Celtics, stays healthy, that's a huge edge because he has not been healthy on a consistent basis. Remember, he missed a game against Miami, and Bam Adebayo, averaging 10 points, scored 31. But the Warriors are not a team that scores a lot of points inside. No player averages on the Warriors currently over 7 points a game inside, while the Celtics have 3 players averaging 8. Translation, Boston will get more easy baskets in this series than the Warriors. That's why I think many of the games will be close. If Robert Williams is healthy, they'll get even fewer. So I think the size and the health of Robert Williams are 2 huge factors. I'll take Warriors in 6. I don't foresee any blowouts. It's hard to blow out a great defensive team like Boston. Dear Colin, if Steph wins 4 titles, is that the same as LeBron winning 4 titles? Well, I guess historically that would be true, but these are 2 different arguments. LeBron is being argued as the greatest player ever. I think with Steph, you're arguing he created the best basketball culture ever. Off-ball movement, 3-ball shooting, constant in motion offensively. LeBron has created briefly some cultures and then left them. Miami, Cleveland twice. That's not what Steph's about. Steph has built the greatest basketball culture in the last, 20 years. And they both matter. Talent with no culture is the Brooklyn Nets, out in the first round the last 2 years. Good, solid talent with great culture is the Miami Heat. Got to a Game 7 and a Jimmy Butler jumper of getting to the NBA Finals. You need both. There's an argument, though. Culture trumps talent overall. And that's what Steph's all about. Dear Colin, what was the most underrated NBA Finals of all time? Well, I'll give you 2 teams and 2 finals. The Chicago Bulls and the Utah Jazz in 1997 and 98. I think people sometimes forget how close those games were and often how Michael Jordan struggled to get his 30-plus points. Listen, the Bulls and the Jazz were both super successful. I think Utah's arguably the best team to never win a championship. But the games were tight and low scoring. There were 3 games decided by 4 points or less. And then the 1998 finals were even closer. 5 of the 6 games decided by 5 points or less. And a majority of games in both finals were simply decided by Michael Jordan hitting a big shot with 1 to 2 minutes left. His shooting percentage dropped, his efficiency dropped. And I think it was viewed as potentially a disaster for NBC. Small market, Utah Jazz, not a lot of glamour. It ended up being the highest rated NBA Finals ever. David against Goliath. And if you asked Jordan privately, he would probably acknowledge the toughest finals of his life were those. Utah, Stockton, T. Bailey, the coach Jerry Sloan, Karl Malone, Brian Russell, a deep bench. They were a handful. Much more than people romanticize this series to be about Michael and the shot. Back-to-back years, the Jazz gave the Bulls fits offensively. Dear Colin, what do you make of Aaron Donald saying he's at peace with possibly retiring for the Rams? He's got 3 years left. He's not retiring. When people say publicly, this issue is not about the money, it's about the money. People say publicly, I am not bothered at all by criticism. They're bothered by criticism. And when they say, I could retire tomorrow, they don't really want to retire tomorrow. Aaron Donald's best year was 4 years ago. and interior linemen age much quicker than quarterbacks. I don't think he's the most important Ram. I think McVay's 1, Stafford 2, Cooper Kupp 3, Aaron Donald and the GM Les Snead probably 4. But there's a price on what I'd pay for Aaron Donald. He doesn't want to quit, just signed a deal for shoes with Kanye West. Hard to sell shoes as a retired athlete. He'll play and he'll get paid. Dear Colin, you were very much in favor of people wearing masks, and now you've backed off. What's wrong with you? Well, I'm glad you asked. Listen, I never try to go too deep or get too embedded in anything. Sports opinions, life opinions, because if new information arrives, I'm going to pivot to the right side. Initially, I thought masks mattered. But if you look at data, it suggests that mandates with masks have not. I just got back, as many of you know, a week vacation in Europe, Italy. On the airlines, both there and back, you didn't have to wear the mask if you were having a cocktail or drinking water or going to the bathroom or eating. That constituted roughly 40 to 50% of my trip. It felt like to me, and my wife and I talked about this at length, it was mostly cosmetic theater. I'm not somebody willing to stubbornly stay on a side if new information presents itself. What's the point? Don't you want to be on the right side? There's a lot of things about COVID initially, even epidemiologists were guessing on. Now, there's also people out there that are overly cautious. We've all worked with them. We have them in the family. There's some people that are going to wear masks forever. That is certainly their right, and they shouldn't be mocked. I just don't happen to be one of those people.